That's what you need for a good chain, because you don't want it would be too heavy. Chain making is just like the base and core of soldering. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing a bracelet for charms, which you can use on its own because it's quite cool and pretty on its own, but I'm planning to use it for charms. And what kind of charms I have in mind, you will see in the next video. So today we're focusing on the base, on a beautiful toggle chain. The size of jump rings and the thickness of the metal is just like spot on, like really. That's what you need for a good chain, because you don't want it would be too heavy and you want it would look decent as well. I always make samples for me because I'm the type of jeweler that I need to see how the piece is looking like. I always check how it looks like, how it's layering, how many jump rings we actually do need. I always check it in every stage of my making, because sometimes you change your mind in the process of jewelry making. So I really do change my mind often. So we will do a very classical cool chain, you know, like all chains are cool. Like I love making chains, you know that. We have a lot of chains on the channel, so if you're interested, you can check them all out. And we will do a toggle chain today, so yeah. I think we have to start this. And we're starting everything with a 16 gauge of a wire, which is half hard at this point, but you can use soft too, it wouldn't matter. When we're using wire on a coil and the wire is pretty thin, I would say, it doesn't make a big difference because we're hardening wire when we're doing that bending on the coil. And we're using 5.5 number on a jump ring mandrel. In this whole bracelet, I use 27 jump rings, but it will depend how long you want your bracelet would be. I'm just telling you how many we will use for this bracelet. We have to keep in mind that we will attach clasp in the end as well, which is taking sometimes even 2 centimeters of the length of your bracelet. So it really depends what kind of closure you will be using. And I have to announce that this video is sponsored by Rio Grande, which is a big jewelry supply store where you can find a lot of things. It's very easy to shop on the site as well. They have categories for different needs of yours when you're creating your jewelry pieces. I buy a lot of stuff from them, you know that, from the tools to the silver. And they're giving you a code with $20 off of your shipping price. Thank you, Rio Grande, for sponsoring this video. When I'm making jump rings, I always just make more. Always. The size is pretty universal, and to have extra jump rings, it's never a bad case when you're creating jewelry, for sure. Sometimes you get not straight sawing, so it's better to get extra because you're already making a mandrel, so it makes sense just to make way more. Finally, when we have that whole cutting done, which takes some time, for sure, don't expect that it's very quick process, then you won't get frustrated that it's like you're still sewing, you know? So just imagine that it will take time, relax, take your saw and just cut those jump rings. Now I'm showing you a few ways how you can actually prepare everything for soldering. First way would be for advanced. Take all of those jump rings and put them together and solder them, lay down on that soldering block. That takes a lot of focus and patience. Even for me, sometimes I don't have very focused days, so I'm splitting my jump rings into parts. It's easier to focus that way because we have to solder 3 connections at the time and then focus on another one. So it's truly way easier to solder it that way. And it's way easier to put those jump rings in exact way how you would want to solder them, because you don't want to lay that connection part with the connection part. You don't want anything with touch. You want those connections would be like free, you know, like free and out of touch. I like to solder my pieces with balls because when you form a ball from your solder, it's easier to understand where you're putting that ball. And you can actually be very precise. You can solder your chain different way. You can take a solder wire and do it that way, but I don't like to work with it. It's just too much overdue. And if you don't want to leave it, then you have to be extra focused. So yeah, I just like to control my work. how much of actual solder I'm putting on each jump ring, and I don't know, it just works for me that way. As I like to tell you all the time, that everything is a preference. Not all of the things will be comfortable to you the same way as if it would be comfortable to me. Because we are very custom when it comes to tool using and that movement on the hand as well. Our fingers are different lengths, and it's actually very impactful when it comes to work. That's why we have so many different tools in the market, and not all would be suiting for your work. In that sense, you actually have to try it out for yourself. Okay, now when we have freshly cleaned and pickled solder jump rings, we can connect them in one chain. And when we set everything in parts, it's way easier to see what kind of jump ring we actually have to solder again. We want very good connections all the time, so we're twisting wires until we feel that we have that tight connection. We have to play around sometimes with connections because it depends on the spring back a lot, and you want to have that touching and no gaps in this case, because you won't get beautiful solder joint. You will have to use more solder too, so we don't want that. Connecting the last jump ring, and you truly want to hear that sound of that clicking when you're coming with your connections together. That's how you know that you have a good spring back. Now what's left to do to solder those last jump rings, which we don't have that much, so it's very nice and comfortable soldering, I would say. And actually, if you're not practicing with chains, you're missing a lot, because soldering chains always keeps you grounded. Because when you're trying a lot of new things all the time, you get that frustration a lot, because sometimes nothing goes to plan. You know, you have days when projects aren't going, and then you're so frustrated about your work as well. So chain making is just like the base and core of soldering. Then you're just doing that work and thinking, okay, maybe I'm not that bad, you know? So you're just reconnecting yourself with your silversmith spirit, and then take other more challenging pieces again. It's very meditational process as well, and sometimes when you're lacking on inspiration too, chain is very easy thing that you can actually create. Final touches of the chain, we need to connect it with the clasp. I'm not showing you the clasp part because I will prepare a separate video for those two clasps we did with the bracelets. These two different sizes of clasp will be in one video that you could use for your smaller or bigger bracelets. Now we're just soldering the last parts of this chain. Now, when we finished all the soldering, we have to sand our bracelet. That means we're going through every connection that we made and making no lines there. If you don't mind to see the line in your pieces, at least clean the solder. I see so many people leave their connections with the line, because line is a preference for sure. Maybe you want to accentuate that it's like handmade or something, but just to leave solder, it's unprofessional. I'm truly extra when it comes to cleaning. I don't want to see any line, and I don't want to see any solder. I want to see beautifully uniformed round jump rings throughout my chain. At least that's how I prefer to work. Sanding takes a long time for me. Last step, I'm putting that in a tumbler. If you don't have the tumbler, I would recommend to use very fine brass brush. The finest brass brush you will have, the better the surface will be. Unless you want to go for more raw finish, then you can experiment with different kinds of press brush. And voila, we have a beautiful toggle bracelet. Okay, we're done here. We even made a very beautiful clasp for this one. It's a bit smaller, but it's thick. I love thick clasp, which is not too heavy. And I like that smaller version of it. And yes, I did heard you. We need a clasp video for this channel. So I will include the small one and the bigger one in one video, and we'll make that for you. And I already started to put jump rings for my charms, which we will make on a second video. I'm very excited about that one because it looks very cool to me. The whole vision was just to have a lot of charms, so keep an eye on that. And as always, if you have questions and suggestions for this channel, I'm waiting in a comment section. And yeah, I hope you like it. And I will see you in my next one.